First and foremost, I just want to say rest in peace to Hayden Panettiere and condolences to her family. For those of you that don't know, Hayden Panettiere was a 36-year-old actress born August 21st, 1989. She got a breakout role in the show Heroes from the 2000s, where she played the unkillable, indestructible teenager. Other notable roles were the show Nashville. She was in Scream, and many other things throughout the years. And her death has unfortunately been reported to the media. Now, a cause of death has not been announced and an investigation is underway. What that means, I can't tell you at this time. But the speculation or the implication that I seem to be seeing beyond straight reporting on this across the internet is that she may have taken her own life due to her traumatic experiences in Hollywood and growing up. And I'm not here to speculate on the cause or manner of death. I'm not here to gossip. What I'm here to do is show you a segment from an interview she did about 3 months ago and then comment on that, because I think it can serve as a warning to young women across America who have their eyes set on Hollywood stardom and fame and, well, getting on boats with people you don't necessarily know that well.
You write about a moment in your career where a friend of yours takes you onto a boat. You're led to a room which has an older man in it and then basically told to perform sexual acts and,
Oh, yeah. Perspective completely shifted and I realized that I was in danger. But by the time I'd realized I was in danger, I was quite literally out to sea. And it was that moment shook me and was shocking. And I was quite literally walked down, and I had been having a great time. There was no hints of anything like that happening. So it took me, I was shocked. It took me by surprise. And it was led by somebody that I had grown to trust and see as a protector and somebody who had my back. And to be walked down the stairs, and it was as like a surprise, presented as though it was like a surprise. And it was this very small room, and she physically put me in the bed next to this undressed man who was very famous and had his hands like this, like this was just, an average day for him. This is something that happens all the time. And I waited for her to leave. And I mean, that lion in me, that fire in me, that my hair stood on end, and I became ferocious. I was like, this is not happening. But I had nowhere to hide. And I bolted and I hid wherever I could think of to hide on a boat. There was no jumping off and swimming away, and there was nobody who was going to, I realized that there was nobody who was going to be empathetic to my situation, that this was nothing new to them.
Now, firstly, just to get out of the way, ladies, when you get onto a boat with people that you don't absolutely trust, that you do not know very well, not on some surface level, you put yourself in a vulnerable position, and really anybody getting on a boat with people that they don't necessarily know the best is potentially endangering themselves. Now, this is not to say, hey, you shouldn't have fun, you shouldn't live your life, you shouldn't, have some adventure. But you should always be aware. You should be very mindful of the fact that when you get onto a boat and go out into water, especially deep water, you are effectively trapped there. And whatever happens on that boat, you will be subject to. Just a little food for thought. Secondly, though, I need to comment on the nature of Hollywood that we all know to be true at this time. My entire life growing up, the trope of casting couch was commonly spread, commonly known, but was more or less a trope. We all knew that it was going on to some degree out there. I mean, obviously, whenever you have, powerful people that have access to things that less powerful people with no power, want, well, those people will take advantage. That is human nature, unfortunately. Nonetheless, it is the truth. But now that we know the level, the degree to which this was all going on for the last, I don't know, 100 years in Hollywood, I really have to ask young ladies and young men, because they were abused as well. I mean, just look at poor Justin Bieber. To the young men and young women out there that want to chase a career in the media arts on a individual star level, not as necessarily a painter or a graphic designer, but somebody that wants to chase stardom on a level that is unattainable to the vast majority of people. If you want to be up on stage or you want to be up on the screen, is it worth it to sacrifice your integrity to get there? I don't get me wrong, I love music and I love movies. But the systems that have controlled those industries for our entire lives have chewed up and spit out thousands of people, most of which we will never really know the names of, most of which never got big enough to gain our attention. And the ones that got the biggest seem to have suffered the worst abuse or are themselves the abusers. We look at P. Diddy. You can look at a whole bunch of other people that I'm not going to name because we don't actually have the hard evidence, but we all know in the back of our minds who they are, what they are, and what they're probably actually doing to these people that are trying to gain access to the industry through them. To young people, I have to ask you, does fame and stardom and attention, is that worth the suffering, the trauma that we have seen so many of these actors and actresses tell us about over just the last few years? And to parents that are willing to allow their children to go out and chase these careers, I ask you, is it worth it to imperil your child to such harm and abuse so that they can be famous? Or, worsely, so that you can live vicariously through their fame, so that you can benefit off the wealth that is generated through that. Because it seems like a really high proportion of parents in Hollywood, higher than normal, are there simply to take advantage of their child's success should their child become successful. I mean, they've had to make laws about this in states across America because too many child actors' parents took advantage of that wealth, used it irresponsibly, and left them effectively destitute after years of work on television and in movies. Hollywood, the industry, is a cancer on our society. The people in charge of it are monstrous. The people in charge of the music industry are monstrous, and there's no question about it at this point. We know for a fact. We have heard enough stories of abuse. We have seen people charged. Weinstein's in prison, or actually I think he's out now because of some sort of technical error. Diddy's in prison. We watched the video of him beating Cassie down. Cassie, whatever. However you may feel about it, whether you think she was a willing participant or not, beating someone down, period, much less in a public hotel hallway, that's not okay. That's abusive no matter how you cut it. So a word to the wise, if you are a young person pursuing a career in Hollywood, if you think that you want to be some famous actor or that you want to get on a record label and you think that you're going to gain access to that through other people with more power already in the industry, I would just suggest finding something else to do. That or doing it yourself, because we thankfully now live in an age where you can independently create movies, music, series, art, whatever you want on your own, or rather with a small team of dedicated individuals. I mean, you just look at the Curry fella with his Obsession movie, gathering that money through YouTube shorts and things of that nature, and then investing it into a movie that he then sold for $15 million, I think, and that went on to make, I don't even know, several hundred millions of dollars. Look at the SoundCloud era. I mean, you're young. You can do this all on your own now. Don't take what seems like an easier route to resources through industry moguls, because these people have time and time again for 100+ years abused those under them. And you don't have to go through that anymore. And to parents that want to support their kids in these endeavors regardless of the risks, I would say go about it like Hillary Duff's mom. You know, when you look, you'll see all these articles about how Hillary Duff's mom was difficult. She was overbearing. She was aggressive. This, that, and the other. But you hear it from everyone else. What you hear from Hillary is that she appreciated that management. And what I can gather just through speculation, which I know I said I wasn't going to do about Miss Panettiere's death, but I am going to do here, is that Miss Duff's mom went into Hollywood like a straight gangster. She protected her daughter's integrity. She protected her daughter's business. And she did it with no F's given. You feel me? And I know that people don't want to do that because they get labeled as difficult and then people don't want to work with them. But you know what? I would rather someone not want to work with me and my child in some sort of artistic endeavor because they feel like I'm difficult for protecting my child than for simply making things easy and letting them get groomed and abused like poor Amanda Bynes was.